Thank you so much. This is Dr. Leah Tate, and I'm calling the September 23rd, 2021 Outreach and Communications Committee meeting to order. There are a few logistical items I would like to cover before we get started. We have allocated time for public comment for items not on the agenda at the beginning of our meeting. Additionally, we welcome public comments on any item on the agenda, and is the committee's intent to ask for public comments prior to taking action on any agenda item. Please be respectful of our time constraints and the need to conduct and complete the committee's business. And if there are several members of the public seeking to comment on a particular agenda item, I will set a time limit on each speaker to ensure maximum participation by all in the context of a busy agenda. Public comments are instrumental to our hearings, adding to the vibrant discussion on matters before the committee. In making a public comment, please do not identify any licensee or registrant of the board by name in order to avoid prejudicing future action that may be required of board members in our capacity as a deliberative body in enforcement proceedings. With those logistical items out of the way, Ms. Pertot, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Riscate,
Here.
Rogers,
Present.
Tate.
Here.
Roll is complete.
Thank you, and quorum has been established. I would like to welcome everyone to the Outreach and Communication Committee meeting. I appreciate that everyone is taking time out of their schedule to spend with the committee this morning. I'm excited to welcome our newest committee member, Ms. Ana Riscate. Dr. Rogers and I are excited to welcome her to this committee and to the Board of Psychology. We're eager to hear her contributions and future ideas for our committee. Ms. Riscate, would you like to add anything?
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
We're happy to have you here. The goal of the Outreach and Communications Committee is to provide critical information to all Californians regarding the evolving practice of psychology, relevant and emerging issues in the field of psychology, and the work of the board. Thank you, and let's move on to item number 3. This is public comments for items not on the agenda. The committee may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Can we please open up public comment?
This is the moderator. We are accepting public comment. The Q&A feature is how that will happen. It's usually in the lower right corner of your screen. We're sharing instructions on how to access that. You would simply type the word comment in the ask field and send to all participants. We'll give people a moment to locate and type.
Give it a few minutes in case people are having problems navigating.
Sounds good.
Ms. Moderator, can you please close the public comment?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 4, I hope the committee has had time to review the minutes from the September 24th, 2020 meeting. If they're acceptable, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes. This is Shakanda Rogers.
Thank you, and I'll second that. Let's see. And Ms. Pertot, can you call the roll? Oh, unless there's comment, I'm sorry. I fast forward. Any discussion about the minutes? I'm sorry. Okay, Ms. Pertot, can you please call the roll?
Riscate,
Aye.
Rogers,
Aye.
Tate.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the
Um,
moderator. I believe it is recommended to get public comment just in case.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's open up the public comment,
Thank you.
please, Ms. Moderator, and thank you for the reminder. Last call for comments on the September 24th, 2020 meeting minutes. Ms. Moderator, can you please close public comment? Perfect. Should I call the roll again? Are we good?
Hi, this is Rebecca. I think with the lack of public comments, I think you're okay to preserve that vote at this point. I think that's
Okay.
reasonable.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So moving on to, sorry, I have too many screens going. The strategic plan update. So regarding the strategic plan, the changes have been provided in red in our packet, and the rest of the document has not changed unless it's in red. We are waiting for regulatory updates and a review from Solid to move forward on this project. Ms. Sorick, would you like to add anything?
Nope. I think you covered it, Dr. Tate, very well about the red items being the items that will look different from the last committee meeting as far as the status updates are concerned. And our original goal completion dates are also what were established in the beginning of the strategic plan. So we are moving forward and completing some items on schedule, and those that aren't, you've captured that, are because of regulatory changes or statutory changes that we're waiting to be officially made, and then also finishing the organizational improvement process evaluation with the solid unit. So as soon as some things we have to do in person, so that's why those updates have not been progressing or waiting on vacancies to be filled, and then we can move forward with that. So I'm happy to answer any questions the board might have or the committee might have.
Do any committee members have questions or concerns on this agenda item?
Yes, hi, this is Shakonda Rogers. I have a quick question about section 4.6. Under goal 4, it's on page 30 in the combined packet. It's the section that talks about increasing the pool of qualified subject matter experts. And so I was just looking at the tasks that are listed: evaluate recruitment tools and identify more effective recruitment tools. I was just wondering if you could speak about the current recruitment tools that you have and what you're considering for more effective recruitment tools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. And if she doesn't mind, I see Ms. Monterrubio is on the line, and she might be able to speak more to this item. Her and Ms. Castleberry have been working on evaluating the expert review program and getting a training ready for when we can accommodate that very soon. So, Ms. Monterrubio, did you want to share your thoughts on this item?
Sure. Hi, Dr. Rogers.
Hi, thank you.
Currently, what we have done is we have sent out email blasts. We've done articles in our journal. We're trying to recruit, even by word of mouth with current experts. We are going to continue to do those things. And we are also going to have a training, as Ms. Sorick mentioned. We're looking to do that in January of 2022, and we're hoping to do that in person. I'm not quite sure, given the pandemic, whether or not that's going to be able to be done in January, but we are already preparing the materials for when we can hold that training. Another thing that we are doing is we have, with the help of the enforcement committee, we have revised certain parts of the application, and we are creating a panel of former board members to help review those applications that we do receive to make sure that we are recruiting the most qualified experts. We do have a process in plan where we definitely check to make sure that no one has any pending or disciplinary action taken against them. We also want to make sure that we are hiring experts in the fields that we are lacking in, which is like neuropsychology, things of that nature. And so creating this panel of former board members is really going to assist staff, because again, we are lay people, in selecting the most qualified applicants. I'm right now working on an article for our next journal to again help recruit additional experts. Currently, we have about 40, and it would be great if we had anywhere from 60 to 80. We do require that all of the experts are currently working in the field that they list on their application, but there are several documents that they are required to submit. And again, the panel will help by reviewing those documents and helping staff determine whether or not these are the individuals that should be working for the board.
Okay, Ms. Monterubio, that is really, really helpful. Thank you so much. And then I have just one follow-up question. So if someone does get approved to be a board expert, how long is that term, and how do they go about renewing an application?
It's a 3-year contract, and they can renew their application by reapplying. Things that we consider during the renewal application process is to make sure, again, there isn't any pending disciplinary action, making sure there haven't been any issues with maybe some of the reviews that they've opined on. So during their review of cases, we do want to make sure that they have a clear understanding of how to write their reports. And we go over all of this in the training. Our training consists of staff being present and presenting information, as well as the Attorney General's office and the Division of Investigation. We explain to them kind of the do's and don'ts of what to do when reviewing. Make sure that they understand when a case is sent to them that it's not because we believe that there's a violation, but we want to make sure that they, as an expert, can opine as to whether or not there's been a departure from the standard of care, and to make sure that they understand that they will have to testify to what they opine to. So we encourage them all to definitely reapply. That would be great for us, but we also want to make sure that there haven't been any issues. So it's not an automatic renewal. They would have to reapply after the 3 years.
Oh,
And
okay.
one more thing, at
Sure.
any time during their contract period, if we believe that they need additional training, we can refer them back to the manual that they receive. We could also ask that they maybe take a break from reviewing cases, which means we won't send them any additional cases if we feel there's a training or an understanding issue of what the expectation is. And also, if any of our experts were to receive a complaint, they are automatically suspended from reviewing any cases while the case against them is being investigated.
Okay, I see. Well, that is all that I have for now. Thank you so much for your thorough reply. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the great questions, Dr. Rogers. Mr. Scate, do you have any comments on this agenda item?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Perfect. Ms. Moderator, can you please open public comment?
Certainly, the Q&A feature will be opened. If you would like to make a public comment on this agenda item, you're welcome to look in the lower right-hand corner for the question mark inside a box, and the instructions are on the screen. You can type the word comment into the text box and hit send. We'll give a few moments for people to locate and type. And I see no requests for public comment. Shall I close the Q&A?
Yes, please. I'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
So moving on to the social media update, Mr. Glass-Steagall, can you please provide us with the update?
Good morning, committee. Included in your materials is agenda item number 6, which is our social media update.
Mr. Glass-Steagall,
This
you're a
includes
little
updates from our Facebook.
Mr. Glass-Steagall, can you hear me? You're a little bit muffled. Can you
hear
get
me?
closer to the? I can, but you're muffled, so I'm worried that other people may not be able to. Can you get closer to? Or am I the only one who thinks it's muffled?
Yeah. Is this any better?
Sounds better to me. Sure, go ahead.
Included in your meeting materials is agenda item 6, which is our social media update. It includes updates from information from our Facebook and Twitter accounts, as well as views of our committee meetings and board meetings from 2021 and 2020. Available for any questions. Thank you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Mr. Glass-Steagall. Do either of the committee members have comments or questions about this agenda item?
I just wanted to comment in reviewing the social media pages that I noticed there's like, I feel like there could be a little bit more content added. Like I don't see the fall newsletter, and then I see content on Twitter that could be added to Facebook. The LMH loan repayment program post, like that would be a great thing to put on Facebook. Just because these social media platforms work with algorithms that, you know, they won't get promoted unless there's like a little more consistency, so a little more content. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Mr. Glass-Steagall, are some of those suggestions things that we could implement?
Yes, it is intended that everything we post on Twitter is also posted on Facebook. So thank you for bringing that to my attention, and I will take a look and make sure that we are posting everything on both platforms.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Any other committee comment? Ms. Moderator, can you please open public comment for this agenda item?
Certainly. We've opened the Q&A feature in WebEx for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment on this agenda item, look for the question mark inside a box logo at the bottom right of your screen. In the ask field, you can type comment and click send, and we will request that you unmute yourself if you do have any comment.
I'm not seeing any individuals requesting comment.
Agreed.
Ms. Moderator, can you please close the public comment?
Certainly.
Website statistics update. Mr. Glass-Steagall, can you please enlighten us?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Is this any better with the audio? Just checking.
That sounds amazing.
Yes.
Much better.
All right. Thank you so much. And I apologize for that previously. Included in your materials is the website update, which includes the top 5 page views of our website from January to September, as well as views of other pages just to show over time kind of frequent landing pages and their views, as well as at the bottom we have not newsletters, but these are advisories for legislation and regulations, and these are the views that they've received from their inception on the website. And again, I'm available for any questions.
Do any committee members have any questions or comments for Mr. Glass-Steagall? Okay, Ms. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
I
Oh, I'm
believe,
sorry.
yes, Board Member Rogers has her hand up.
Yes, and I was speaking and I was on mute, so my apologies for that.
Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Glass-Steagall, thank you so much for this report. I have a question about 3 different pages, so I'll start with the first. Page 40 in the combined packet. I just noticed a big increase between the summer journal for 2021. So I see that from April to June, it was just 71 views, and then it goes way up to 244. Do you have any idea what that increase is about?
Thank you for the question. I believe it was that the summer journal was posted towards the end of that quarter. So there
Oh,
was
okay.
just a few views at the beginning, and then for the next month or the next quarter, that's why it picked up.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question is about, let's see, page 43. And I'm wondering around the COVID-19 FAQ page, how it jumps up to 7,191 between April and June. Is that the same? Do you think that's the same reason that that this one also increased because of when it was posted?
Great question, and I had the same question myself when I was preparing the materials and double checked that number like 5 times because I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
But I believe my guess for this one is that around that April to June is when there was an update to the waivers, and we
Oh, I
always
see.
direct them towards our page. So I believe that's my guess, and I'm
Okay.
fairly certain I'm pretty close on that.
Okay. Okay. That's helpful. And then there's one more question on page 44. Um, Looking at the legislative advisories, I'm looking at AB 89, the suicide prevention training. I saw that that number was really high compared to the views on the other advisories. One question is, did that increase in views, did that also translate to calls to staff at the board to ask questions about the suicide prevention training?
That is a very good question, and I don't think we received 17,000 phone calls.
Uh-huh.
At least I wasn't aware if we did, and I think I would have been. We did receive, I know we received some calls related to the requirement, but I believe it was not more than our continuing education coordinator or our phone team or myself could handle. So I
Okay.
don't think there was that many.
Okay, fantastic.
Mr. Glass-Steagall, just to clarify, that is views over time since we put the advisory out, correct? So that's not a
Correct.
Oh,
recent
I see.
uptick. Okay, I just
Okay.
wanted
No,
to
no, yeah,
clarify that.
those are views from its inception on our website.
I see. Oh, okay. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Ms. Sorick. I appreciate that.
No
Okay.
problem.
Those are all of my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Any other committee member with any questions or comment for Mr. Glass-Steagall?
No comment from me. Thank you.
Perfect. Ms. Moderator, let's open up public comment. Take 2.
This is the moderator, so I've opened up the Q&A feature of WebEx. If you'd like to make a public comment on this agenda item, you can look for the question mark inside a box icon at the lower right of your screen. And in the comment box, type the word comment, and then we will ask you to unmute yourself so that you may speak. We'll give people just a moment to locate and type. And I see no requests. Shall I close the feature?
Absolutely. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
You're welcome.
See, agenda item number 8, update on the newsletter. The Board of Psychology Fall Journal was just completed and sent out, and it is in the committee packet. Shout out to Dr. Rogers for your addition in the journal. And Ms. Sorek, do you have anything to add?
Just that we will be compiling the winter 2021-2022 journal next month, and that should be going out sometime in November. So be on the lookout for that. And again, thank you, Dr. Rogers, for your contribution and having it be a quarterly contribution to have a wellness article in our publication. So I appreciate that.
It is my delight and honor to contribute to the newsletter. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, we appreciate it, so keep it going. Do any committee members have any comments regarding the newsletter update?
No comment for me.
Okay. Ms. Moderator, can we open up public comment, please?
Certainly, this is the moderator, and we have opened up the Q&A feature of WebEx for public comment. Look for the question mark inside a box icon at the lower right of your screen and type the word comment if you have anything on the update on the newsletter. And I see no requests for comment. Shall I close that?
Yes, please, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Outreach activities update. This is our item number 9. These are the activities that have occurred the past few months. Ms. Sorek, would you like to elaborate or share the perks of the outreach?
Yes. Included in the meeting packet is the stakeholder meetings for fiscal year 2021-2022. I have included now, I have been as part of the annual and mid-year meetings for the Association of State and Provincial Psychology Boards, I have been meeting with the other board administrators and registrars, people that are in my similar position throughout the country and Canada. As part of those meetings, but now since we are in the current pandemic, we have been meeting remotely as a group, and that has been going about quarterly. So I'm going to start keeping track of this as part of our outreach because I think it's important to capture when we meet with other stakeholders, such as other state boards or provincial boards. Also wanted to capture that we did have the Health Professions Education Foundation present on the fiscal health of the loan repayment program. We plan to do that on an annual basis. It's a good accountability feature and way to understand how our fund is helping our licensees reach people in our community and increase access to care. We don't have any current requests. We will be attending the Asppb annual meeting, and we'll be getting an update on Asppb later in the agenda. We'll be hearing from Dr. Horn, so I'm happy to take any questions the board members might have.
Do any board members have comments or questions for Ms. Sorek?
Hi, this is Shakanda Rogers. I have a quick question. Ms. Sorek, can you talk a little bit about the things that are discussed at these BARC meetings? I think it's really interesting that you get a chance to meet with other board administrators from the country and in Canada. So what kinds of things are discussed at those meetings?
So lately, the meetings have been centered around working around COVID, challenges or barriers that we're seeing. Do our states have emergency declarations in place? How have we been dealing with waiver processes, remote meetings? Also having, talking about things like temporary practice provisions and telehealth. So that's primarily been the topics of discussion with the BARC group. At times when it is a non-COVID situation, we talk about enforcement issues, concerns that we have in common, certain kinds of complaints that we might be seeing as a pattern. At the last annual meeting I attended, we were talking about child custody complaints as an example. So those are the kinds of things that we talk about as a group, but right now it's primarily been centered on how we're working in a COVID environment and how our boards are adjusting through their processes.
Okay, that's fantastic. It's good to know that everyone is talking about how to maneuver through this pandemic and that you all have a forum where you can get together quarterly. So thank you for that. That was really helpful.
Thank you. And thank you for the question. It's always, we're one of the larger states, but I always, as part of the Asppb meetings or the BARC meetings, I always find ideas on ways of doing business from our brother and sister agencies. So this is it's a really good conversation to be a part of.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I was thinking when you were talking about it. It's, great to hear what other jurisdictions are doing, and I imagine there's a great opportunity for idea sharing and learning from one another. So I'm glad that you have that available. Thank you.
Is there
Yeah.
any other committee comments or questions for Ms. Sorick?
No, but that was a great question. Thank you.
Ms. Moderator, can you please open public comment?
Certainly. So if anyone has any comment on the outreach activities update, you can look in the lower right corner of your WebEx screen for the question mark inside a box. Click that and then a text box will come up. You can type the word comment and send to all participants. I'll give people a moment to locate and type. And I see, Board Member Rogers has her hand up again, but I see no request for public comment.
I do have my hand up, but I'll wait until public comment is closed.
Ms. Moderator, would you like to close public comment? Thank you.
Certainly.
And go ahead, Dr. Rogers.
Okay, just one quick question and or recommendation. So for outreach activities moving forward, could we have just a few additional bullet points under all of the outreach just to talk about the different themes that have been covered at these different meetings? I'm really curious to know what kinds of things are being discussed, and it's a good idea, at least for me, to think about how that relates to our committee work. So if you could,
more details?
Yeah, just a little more detail about what takes place at each of these meetings.
Okay, perfect. I'm sure Ms. Sorick can get right on that and just give us a little more meat.
Yep.
Okay,
Perfect.
fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to ASPPB updates. And now I'm happy to give the floor to Dr. Jackie Horn. I see that she has joined us. Are you there? Are you muted?
I mute myself. So, thanks very much. Can y'all hear me?
Perfect. Thanks, Dr. Horn. Welcome.
Well, my pleasure. As you know, you're my peeps. So you want me to talk about things that ASPPB is doing and particularly to focus on the outreach and communication piece?
Sure.
Is that correct?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
And any other tidbits you think we need to know at this time,
Okay.
including the
well,
upcoming conference.
All right. Well, let me start with that. The ASPPB annual meeting is scheduled for October 15th and 16th. It's a virtual meeting, so it'll be Friday and Saturday in October. And the theme of the meeting is public protection prevention, and the focus is on what licensing boards are doing that are proactive rather than working primarily complaint driven, but what they're doing proactively to protect the public, have better psychologists, etc. I'm really happy to say that California is on the agenda twice. Dr. Leah Tate is going to be talking about in a session, hold on, let me find the name of the session. It's called Outreach and Education, actually. And she's going to be focused, it's called Reaching Out and Educating Those We Serve. And this is a session on the kinds of outreach things that boards are doing that help educate the public, but also licensees. And what Dr. Tate's going to be presenting on is the pamphlet that the board created along with the Board of Behavioral Sciences. And was it did the medical board also take part in this update on this pamphlet?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. On psychotherapy, it never includes sexual behavior. And so she's going to be presenting about that, talking about, who did it, why we did it, and what it's for, and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff about it. So we're really excited about that. Then Mr. Burke, Jonathan Burke, is going to be talking in a later session about continuing education and continuing professional development, about which is going to be looking at, and this is really interesting, it's going to be looking at, first of all, the research that has been done about what we know about continuing education and continuing professional development, what's helpful, what's not helpful. We have a leader in the field, Greg Niemeyer, who I think most of y'all know. We also have a presentation on psychologist wellness and how that and the research on that, and how that enters into continuing professional competence, essentially. And then we're going to have a section of that on some single topic CE courses, and that are a little bit different, or that were created a little bit differently. And so Mr. Burke is going to present on suicide prevention and how the California board came to decide it was going to have that as one of the continuing education requirements, and the kinds of things that the board did to not make people who had this training have to repeat the training. And so I think the pretty creative ways of allowing people to present evidence that they had received training in suicide prevention. So Mr. will be talking about that. So I really want to encourage all the board members, if y'all can come, to really come to the meeting, because there are really going to be some good things throughout the meeting about what different jurisdictions are doing, again, similar to some of the things that California is already doing on really being proactive in terms of trying to maintain public protection. The other thing I want to talk about, I think that's been a big help and focus, I think, for both the licensure community and our regulatory, the regulatory bodies, but also to the training community. So I'm going to start with the regulatory bodies. One of the things that, and for licensees, so one of the things that Asppb has is a credentials bank for people, and they can do this while they're in training, or and we encourage them to do this while they're in training, but all along the way, to enter any credentials, scores on certain things, practicum experiences and supervisors, ratings, things that ultimately the licensing board might need when for licensure. But also, if people are thinking about moving, say from California to another jurisdiction, to bank their credentials, it's free to do that. And that way, if people are applying for licensure, they'll have all their credentials because they're primary source verified by Asppb. They will have those credentials, like if they said, I'm applying for licensure in California, could you send my credentials to California? Then they'll come to California, and the California board or staff will be able to have all the credentials it needs as you're reviewing what folks need. The other thing that Asppb has on its website is CyPro, and this is with the National Federation of Social Workers, psychologists, and a couple of other groups that have joined together to create a resource for that includes essentially all the requirements for in the case of psychology, all the psychology jurisdictions in the US and Canada, of what their requirements are for licensure, things like how many psychologists there are, just a lot of statistics about each board. And that's part of what's called PsyPro, PSYPRO. Asppb also has on its website consumer information disclosures, which we hope to be able to include in SciBook, which is all the requirements for licensure and for jurisdictions. But we hope to be able to include it. But this is right now state by state for trainees and for educators, what is required in terms of educational requirements for licensure. And again, we have it state by state. This year, I think we're going to try to add Canada, but this is in response to the Department of Education requirement that all professional programs that are accredited, they have to be able to tell their licensees, their people who are coming to their programs, if by attending their program, they'll be eligible to be licensed in any US state. So we've compiled, like I said, a very detailed list of all the licensure requirements, educational requirements for licensure on the consumer in the consumer information disclosures, and also, like I said, I'm going to be adding Canada to that too, and we hope to make it a part of Asspb eventually. The other thing that Asppb has is a toolkit for education and for particularly to educate like consumers, to educate governments, but it's about psychology licensure. It's about why people should be licensed, and I don't know that California has experienced this a lot, but across the both the US and Canada, there's been a very strong anti-regulatory movement, and there have been a lot of efforts to essentially do away with requirements for licensure, or many requirements for licensure. So Asppb has put together a toolkit. Again, it's on the Asppb website, which is, by the way, asppb.net. And, but included in there, by the way, are the two pamphlets that California has. One is the one that Dr. Tate's going to be talking about at the annual meeting about psychotherapy, never including sexual behavior. But the other is on the education, other manual that sort of educates the public about what's a psychologist, what's an MFT, et cetera, all the different licenses. But both of those are part of the toolkit. But that's there again with a lot of suggestions and help for if legislatures need to be talked about and you need any one-pagers, need to be talked to, and you need any one-pagers for presenting what licensure is about and why regulation, et cetera, et cetera. The final thing I want to talk to you all about is the EPPP2 decision. That decision is whether to continue the rolling period or to essentially give a firm date when the EPPP2 will be incorporated, if you will, and the EPPP will be one exam composed of two parts. That decision was going to be made in the January meeting of the Asppb board in 2022, but because the part two was rolled back from January of last year to November of 2020, the decision will be also by the Asppb board is going to be moved up to give essentially a full 2 years of this rolling adoption before that decision is made. So that's about it that I wanted to talk about. Do y'all have any questions for me, or do you want to ask for anything? Do you have any questions about anything specific that I might have left out that you know about?
Hi, Dr. Horn. It's Dr. Tate. I just really wanted to say thank you for giving us a nice, succinct update on what's going on. It sounds like you guys are very busy.
Always.
Do any other
Anything
committees
else?
have comments or questions for Dr. Horn?
Yes, hi, this is Shakanda Rogers. Hi, Dr.
there.
Horn. It's so nice to have you be with us today. And thank you for the updates. I had a question, and I don't know if this is a question for you specifically or if this is for board staff, but I was really intrigued by these resources that you mentioned that are on the Asppb website, the credentialing bank and SciPro. So I was taking a look at the website when you were talking about it. And I'm just wondering if there is a way for us as the Outreach and Communications Committee to post something about those resources, maybe on our social media, as Ms. Riscate was talking about, the idea of posting consistently and just being able to let licensees and or trainees and applicants know about these resources. Because if you had not come to this meeting today, I know I wouldn't have known about them. So is there a way that we could post about that just to let other people know that these kinds of resources are available?
Absolutely, you could. Do you want the links? Is that what you're wanting, or what would you like? Because I do think you have a link to the ASPPB website on your.
Yes, I was looking at that on our on the board website, and I see that ASPPB is under related links, but specifically about these resources. I'm not sure who heads up the social media component for us, but is there a way to put a link to these kinds of resources just so other folks can be made aware that they exist and they can take advantage of them?
Hi,
I
this
don't
is
know
the
who that.
internet.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. So we do have a link to ASPBB website from our site, but if folks don't know what to look for, it might not be as helpful. What I would like to suggest, and everybody knows how I like to voluntold people to write articles. I would suggest that we have an ongoing piece in our newsletter about we can rotate issues so that we can highlight different things that ASPBB is doing or has resources for. And what we can do is then once it's in the newsletter, we can promote it on social media. So it's kind of a double coverage.
Oh, I
So
see. That's a great
if
idea.
Dr. Horn would be amenable to that role, or she could delegate it to someone else in ASPBB if it's a topic specific thing. It would be nice to have a quarterly feature about an ASPBB resource that our licensees and other stakeholders would be able to access. So if that is something that's would work, I would welcome that from ASPBB. And if that meets kind of what Dr. Rogers was hoping to achieve.
That's
That's a
perfect
great
and
idea.
even better than what I was thinking. So thank you, Ms. Sorick.
Now, Dr. Horn hasn't said anything. Dr. Horn.
I was trying to think of how to answer this. No, I'm happy to at least get people to write, to sort of organize it on the ASPPB side, and whoever. And I would like to talk to you more about it, Ms. Sork, but yeah, I'm happy to do that or get somebody from ASPPB to do it depending on the topic. We'd be happy to.
I love it. That sounds great. So Ms. Sorek, Dr. Horn, you guys can speak privately about the future of the article.
Yep.
Happy to do that.
Perfect. Any other committee comments or questions for Dr. Horn? Okay, Ms. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
Certainly, we've opened the Q&A feature of WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, you may look for the question mark inside a box icon at the lower right of your screen, and in the text box type comment and click send. I'll give people a moment to locate and type. And I do not see any requests for public comment. Shall I close the feature?
Yes, please. And thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And before we move on to the next agenda item, I really would like to say thank you, Dr. Horn, for spending a little bit of time with us and giving us the updates. We always love hearing from you.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks so much for having me. And you know, y'all are my peeps. I've said that many times. So happy
We
to be
know
here.
the California board is your.
Right. That's right. Okay. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Moving on to agenda item 11. This is, sorry, I got these screens going. So in 2008, the board created a publication for your peace of mind, a consumer's guide to psychological services. There has been no reviews, substantial, huge reviews since 2008. There was a small one in 2018. This is an action requested. We need to assign a committee member to work with staff and legal to update this brochure. And before I assign a person, do we need a discussion about this, or a committee member would like to volunteer to help out to update this?
I'm happy to help out with this project.
You know what, Dr. Rogers? You probably know you're on my list.
I had a feeling it was coming my way, possibly, and I'm excited to do it. So yeah, that's no problem at all.
Well, you're a great editor and you have quite the keen eye. So I'm happy to share this project with you.
Okay.
Well, hand it over is what I'm doing.
Okay.
Ms. Riscate, do you have any comments or questions about this item?
No, but can it only be one person, or could I also help out, but maybe like during like the final phase of approval?
I think that Dr. Rogers could do the initial, and then both of us would be helping with the finals.
So what
is that correct, Ms. Sorg?
Yeah, what this process would look like is the committee member would work with staff and legal counsel on drafting the updates or edits to the brochure, and then it would be brought back to the committee for discussion and approval, and then it would be brought to the board after that.
Oh, okay.
So that would be the process for that. So everybody on the board would have input in the updating of the brochure.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other comments from committee members or concerns?
Yes, I have just one quick question. I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but when I saw this on the agenda, I went to the website for the board and I typed it in the search bar and I was able to find it. Is it possible, once we have the document completed and updated and all of that, is there a way that we can put this on the main page or link to this on the main page of the website? So maybe under quick hits, so that folks don't have to go searching for it, because it looks like a really wonderful resource. And again, I'm just trying to figure out ways for people to know what's available without having to go digging around for it. So any thoughts or any comments folks have, I'd really like to hear other perspectives.
We can definitely do that. I think it's a great idea. And whenever we put out something new, we put it in the update box, like what's new.
Oh, I see.
And we do try and keep that the new stuff new. So it'll definitely be there, but I think it's also a great idea to have it on quick hits. So people don't have to dig around through publications page to find it.
Okay.
No, I agree. The less digging, the better for everybody all the time.
And then
It's hard to
also, oh, sorry. Just to piggyback on Ms. Sorik's comment earlier about giving an update in the newsletter about, what Asppb is doing, could we also put a section in the newsletter once this is updated, just to let licensees know that this is available so they can find it on the website?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Any other board comment, suggestions, questions? Ms. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
Certainly. We've opened up the Q&A section of WebEx for public comment on the plan to update for your peace of mind. If you've got a comment, you can look for the question mark inside the box in the lower right corner of your screen, type the word comment and click send. I'll give people a moment to locate and type. And I do not see any requests for public comment. Shall I go ahead and close the Q&A?
Yes, please, and thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So moving on to agenda item number 12, titled The Digital Divide. So Ms. Sorick, Mr. Fu, and I discussed this in 2020 as a response to the pandemic and the nationwide protests. We actually had a pretty lengthy and fruitful discussion. And we were trying to look at how the Board of Psychology conducts business and do an assessment of what access to psychological services look like right now. At that time, we decided to draft survey questions to assess barriers to telehealth. We came up with 5 questions there in the hand carry items. And just wanted to have that discussion. Do we like the questions? What do we do next? Is the timing right for this type of survey? Ms. Sorick, anything to add?
No, I think that that pretty much captures it. Just to kind of look at the process, the discussion really revolved around drafting these survey questions and then sharing those answers with, well, sharing the survey with our stakeholders. So reaching out to our training programs, our schools, professional associations, and consumer groups to see how people felt the barriers were present and what those looked like. And then with the return on the survey results, what we would do is share that with those same stakeholders and perhaps solicit from for example, University of California or another such organization that might have access to grant funds to dig a little deeper and do some research on this or write a white paper. This is just kind of a first step to say well, we all know there's a problem, but what does that problem kind of look like in the big picture? And then what are steps to address that, and what does that look like through policy or what have you? So this is just our kind of getting the conversation started and hoping that someone could piggyback or some organization could piggyback on that and help us dig deeper and have that broader discussion, and then next steps, what to do about it. So that's just kind of a universal look at what the mindset was in doing a survey and then what the next steps might be.
So the questions that we came up with, there are 5 of them, and just kind of in a nutshell, they address technical, financial, legal, training, and practice barriers to telehealth. So I'm open to hearing what the committee thinks or thoughts, suggestions.
I just want to be sure. So this is for practitioners, the survey, or is it for finding out also from clients what issues they had with barriers?
So the stakeholder universe is varied. It is the practitioner, it's the training community, it is the consumer community. So what barriers look like may look different depending on the stakeholder, but what we want to do is hear from everyone that is able to participate in the survey.
Okay. I just think like some of the questions, I don't know if they could be elaborated more or if they would be updated depending on which stakeholder is taking the survey. But like, what are the technical barriers to telehealth? The first one, like immediately I'm thinking, is this a question about what are the barriers for your clients or what are the barriers for you as a person trying to give telehealth? So that was my first thought when reading these questions, is kind of just being, I guess, a little more specific on who that question is directed to, and kind of like, and what exactly is being asked. Like if we're asking their opinion on, you know, problems they've had with their client, or if we're asking maybe they themselves had broadband problems or needed technical support.
One thing I didn't think to add to this, and it makes sense with what you're saying, is the first question should be, I am a consumer, I am a licensee, or I, am an interested party to, mental health or something of that nature. It would
Yes,
be
that
good
makes
to know who's answering the survey. So I think, would that help address or add context to the answers we're getting for these questions, Mr. Scate?
Yes, that would definitely help, especially for, financial barriers. Like, so question 3, what are the financial barriers to telehealth? Like, seems a little more obvious, like they're not getting paid, right? But I still think for the first one, it's still not clear if if you're responding for your clients or yourself. So like I guess we could just, I don't know if we could add an additional, like, depending how this is distributed, another drop down, but like, just to give an example for number 1 again, what are the technical barriers for telehealth? I might say broadband access for my clients, but I have broadband access, but I can't help them get broadband access. So something that kind of like will reflect that, so that it's clear where the technical barrier is, if it's on the initial.
So are you suggesting maybe if this is an electronic survey, a drop down where they for the other and write in specifically, or add more options to the original options in a more specific manner?
I think it could be, let me see, like, it could maybe even be 2 questions. Like, what are the technical barriers to telehealth for yourself and have options? And then what are the technical barriers to telehealth when working with clients?
I can see that.
Or if we have, if we know if it's a consumer or a practitioner, we could say skip to question 3 or skip to question 4, so that the questions are being tailored to who's answering the survey.
And you would have identified that on the front end. So you
Right.
know it's consumer or okay.
Yes, that's a great idea. That I think would definitely have
Thanks for
clearer results.
Thanks for that suggestion, Mr. Scate. Dr. Rogers, any thoughts or questions?
Yes, I have a question about the discussion that we were just having. Because if we're talking about the digital divide, will this survey be electronic? And if we're talking about consumers who might not have access to broadband or tech support to be able to do telehealth, would they also possibly still have difficulty accessing this survey? So is there a way that this survey can be distributed, with pencil and paper? I know that's costly, and, not very green, but I'm just trying to think about how we would be able to reach those folks who do have difficulty with technology in the first place. So that's one question. And then a second question that I have is, for all of these survey questions, I see the last available response for, I think, all of the questions is other. So if people have other concerns, is there a way that we can put a box underneath, like a text box, where people can type in their specific responses if it's not captured by the options given? So where people can, give a narrative of what their experience has been, whether they're consumers or providers.
No, that would be helpful. So we have the real data and we understand what other means.
Sure.
Absolutely, we can include a blank a box for other input. With the survey, we have done a few surveys in the recent past, and we've utilized SurveyMonkey through Solid, through DCA. They have a contract. So it's something that we wouldn't have to pay for. So I'm very mindful of both our Paperlight strategic goal, as well as our funding limitations. So if the committee is amenable to that, that would be the goal. And what we can do is we can work on the draft survey and then bring it back a more completed draft to the board for full consideration. And there might be additional input at the November meeting about the survey questions. But we can amend it based on the input that we've received today.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Ms. Sorick.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers.
Any other committee comments, suggestions?
Hi, this is Mr. Scate again. I think that we should add a question of, have you accessed telehealth for consumers, and then how did you access? Just because I think it's useful to know if people are accessing it on a laptop or computer or on their phone. Just because there are people that, if they can't afford internet access, because you can do everything on a smartphone, sometimes, their money will always just go to the phone because they can kind of like reach everything on that. So I think it's important to kind of know where they're accessing it as well when they do try to access. And that also kind of helps clear like where the technical barriers are coming from. Is it from a mobile app that's being used, or is it from accessing via a laptop or computer at home?
I think that'd be interesting information to have for a consumer, because in this day and age, it could be, you're right, a phone, a laptop, and that data might be helpful in the future for us.
Yeah,
I agree. I think that would be really fantastic information to have.
Any other suggestions regarding the survey? Any other comments before I open it up for public comment? Okay, Ms. Moderator, can you please open public comment?
Certainly. So we've opened up the Q&A feature in WebEx. If you have input on the survey questions, you may type the word comment in the ask box and send to all panelists. And I do see a comment from someone who identifies as Joe Linder Crow. And let me send Joe a request to unmute so that they may present their comment. One moment. And Joe, you can click unmute me when you get, there you go.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Joe Lindercrow, I'm CEO at the California Psychological Association. I wanted to ask ask one thing and then just make a quick comment. Ms. Surik, I may have misunderstood you when you said that these questions went out before. I don't recall that. I don't recall seeing them. I wanted to offer that if we can be a resource in putting together this or reviewing the questions, Dr. Winkleman is one of the country's experts in telehealth and has very wide and deep experience in both writing about and consulting on telehealth. So it does seem to me that the way that these questions are structured right now are targeted toward practitioners. So I think Ms. Rascati had a very good point at the beginning that it might need to actually be two separate surveys, or at least as you suggested, find out at the beginning whether the person is a consumer or a practitioner, because otherwise I'm afraid they'll be confusing. So if we can be of any help, we're happy to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Lindercrow. And I think, well, first of all, this survey has not gone out. We're just getting input from the committee on what this survey might look like. The more I'm hearing in the discussion today, and this is why we have discussion items so we can kind of narrow our focus and understand where to go next. It seems like having perhaps two separate short surveys. I want to keep it short because I want to keep the information relevant, and I want to ensure that we have enough participation from our stakeholders. So perhaps having one short survey be targeted towards the consumer community and one survey for the provider community will help us better articulate the questions and get more useful feedback. And I would appreciate any input that Dr. Winkleman might have. We have leaned on Dr. Winkleman to ensure that, when we put things out, that it is not just helpful for us as a regulatory community, but, for the regulated community. And I appreciate her offer of assistance and always being kind of available for that. I'm feeling like if the committee agrees with two separate surveys targeted at the consumer community and the provider community, we can bring an updated draft to the board meeting for the committee and the board's full consideration. And as part of the meeting materials, Dr. Winkleman would have access to that draft and be able to provide any kind of helpful and useful feedback as part of that process. Just throwing that out for consideration.
I think that sounds great. And in addition, I'm sure this is going to happen at some point in this process. It would be great to have a 3 or 4 sentence paragraph at the top, just, describing the whys and the whats of why we're doing this. Just so, and I'm sure that's going to happen, but I'm just throwing it in there so you have your mind working that direction.
That's a great idea.
This is Mr. Scotty again. And I also think it should be clear, well, kind of reiterating that the purpose of the survey, but also kind of like really making it clear if it's specifically just to find out what the problems are and barriers that exist, because there are people, especially people with disabilities, who were able to access things they were not able to access before due to the fact that telehealth and everything went online. So I just think it's important to kind of like be very specific on, even just saying like, we know some people this was helpful to them, but we're trying to find out how to help break the barriers that exist for everyone else, or just like something like that.
I think public comment is still open. Is that correct, Ms. Moderator?
Yes, it is still open, but I have not received any further requests.
Perfect. Can you please close public comment?
Certainly.
So to move forward, speaking to the committee, I like Ms. Sorik's suggestion of having them create 2 surveys. That is, one is pointedly for one group and one is pointedly for another. Bring it to the board so that we can get a lot more feedback. Can I get a motion towards that direction?
Oh, I actually have one quick comment before we take a
Go
motion, if
ahead.
that's okay. I was just wondering if it's possible to add one other possible response to each question, which is not applicable, because there may be some clinicians that might experience barriers in one area but not the other. And then the other question that I have is for question 4, specifically around legal barriers. If we could just maybe give some examples or maybe a short description of the difference between legislation and regulation, because lay people may not know the difference between those. And so if we could just maybe put that in layman's terms, just to help be clear in what we're asking. That's all. Thank you.
Yep. Sounds good.
Dr. Rogers, do you want to formulate a motion around everything?
Let's see. I move that we take the recommendations from this discussion as applies to the draft of these survey questions and present this to the board at the next Board of Psychology meeting. Does that quite capture it, or do we
I
need
was
to?
just going to ask our council, did that capture it? Does that motion?
Or do we need more specificity?
Well, it might be a better question for Antoinette because it depends on what you're trying to do. Depends on if you're it depends on what your goal is, what you're trying to capture. If your goal, I heard you say that you're sending it back to the board. If that's what you want to do, then you're all set.
Well, we'd like Ms. Sorik to, and the board staff to create 2 surveys to present to the board at our next meeting.
2.
For my purposes, I think I have a good direction on moving the recommendations from our discussion today, updating the draft into 2 separate surveys based on input from the committee, and then those draft surveys will be presented to the board at our next meeting. I think I've got that direction and happy to move forward and understand the will of the committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council, does that work?
I think it does now. I think if your EO is set and yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I'll second that motion. Is there any more board discussion on this item? Perfect. Ms. Patel, can you please call the roll?
Riscate.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
Tate.
Aye.
Thank you.
Perfect. So that passes, and we look forward to seeing the new revision of 2 surveys at the next board meeting. Thank you, Ms. Sorik and staff. Moving on to our last item, actually. Recommendations for agenda items for future committee meetings. Please note the committee may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. So let me open it up to committee members first. Any suggestions for the future? Okay. Ms. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
Certainly. The Q&A section provided for public comment has been opened. If you would like to make a suggestion or request for an agenda item for a future committee meeting, you may type the word comment in the text box that is accessible from the question mark within a square at the bottom right of your screen. And I see no request for public comment. Shall I close the feature?
Yes, please. And thank you for your help today.
You're welcome.
That was our last agenda item. Council, do I need a motion to adjourn, or is it okay for me to adjourn the meeting?
Not necessary. Yeah, you're all set.
Perfect. I'm happy to say we're adjourning the meeting of the Outreach and Communications Committee. Thank you for your help and your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.